As you can see, the title of my little talk today is how game audio skills can help you pay the bills beyond the confines of the gaming industry. So this is going to be a short but sweet talk, I hope, focused mostly on some cool examples of game dev tech that my company utilizes to build custom digital experiences for some of the biggest brands and biggest companies in the world. And maybe I can also help you all potentially get in on the action, because I think this is a part of the industry that's going to expand considerably in the coming years. So let's see how this thing's going to get laid out. So first I'm going to let's talk money. Excellent. That's what I like to see. First, I'm going to give you a little background about myself, so you know where I'm coming from and the skill set that led me to the type of work I'm doing now. I can tell you right now, my career has been a squiggly line. Absolutely not like I started doing what I was doing now 15 years ago and just worked my way up. Quite the opposite. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about games and commerce and just the history of businesses taking advantage of gaming technology and kind of the role that that's played up until now. And then I'm going to, I think this is the most fun part, I'm going to run through some examples of experiences that brands are using to reach customers, make sales, some of the projects that I've worked on, and kind of talk you through how the skills that I acquired from coming from a game dev background have been relevant to those projects. And then finally, we'll discuss a bit how you can maybe go about finding such opportunities for yourself if you have a background in game audio, or if that's something you're working towards. Maybe you'll be able to see some interesting new opportunities that you might not have been aware of before now. So, all right. Hey, Michael Spicer. Nice to see you, man. And Aaron Richards. Cool. Awesome that so many people are here. Who would have thought? All right. So, let's get to myself. But first, we're going to play a little game. The game is called Two Lies, One Truth. Perhaps you've played it before. I'm going to list 3 facts about myself. 2 of them are completely fabricated, not true at all. 1 of them is on the money, something true about me. And your job is to guess in the comments which one you think it was. And the ultimate prize that anyone can win from any game is, of course, bragging rights. So I hope you participate. So, was I a composer for a Mexican telenovela? Was I a voiceover artist for adult audiobooks? Do I sound like I have the voice for that? Or was I the lead guitarist for a hip-hop group in South Korea? Give you 10 seconds to answer. What do you think? 1, 2, 3. Telenovela, adult audiobooks, or guitarist in a hip-hop group in South Korea? See some 2s, 3s, 1s. Please be the adult audiobooks one. Okay, a good mix. I know most people don't believe that I composed for a telenovela for some reason. I don't know. Maybe I'm about to whip out fluent Spanish on y'all. You never know. 3 is literally a dream. Well, 3 is actually the dream come true then. So everyone who guessed lead guitarist in a hip-hop group in South Korea was on the money. So I'll maybe now we'll go back into the Ben Gallagher timeline, and I'll tell you a little bit about how that happened. As to myself, I studied at Berklee College of Music in Boston. I started in 2007. I had studied music composition, just standard like music composition for like commercial work. So basically anything outside of film music was the point of the program. And before that, my only background was playing guitar. I was just a musician who, when I was 18, realized I don't know what else to do with my life. So I guess I'll try to do something with music because I do enjoy playing guitar. Um, and maybe there's some Berkeley grads even in the chat. Would be good to know. But at that point in time, I had no idea about sound design. I had no idea about games. It wasn't even on my radar. It didn't even register to me as something that people did. I was just so focused on my music studies. In 2011, when I finished my program, I moved to South Korea. I wanted to explore the world a little bit. I took a job teaching English for a year in Seoul. And after that, I actually worked at the Seoul Jazz Academy for a while, which is Berkeley's satellite school in South Korea. And other than that, I worked some odd jobs. I played in bands, I recorded artists. I even worked as a tutor for a K-pop group that went on to have their moment in the sun, as so many do. And after that, I moved to Germany, the obvious transition. In 2013, I left Korea with a girl, a woman, a German woman, who dragged me back to Germany with her. And after a year or two, I realized I really had no network, no ideas as how to kind of break into my industry of choice here in Germany. It wasn't going all that well, just trying to freelance randomly, especially the first year when I didn't speak German yet. So I decided to do a master's program to kind of, up my skills, build a little network, and of course the fact that it's completely free in Germany didn't hurt at all. One day when I was at a conference, someone had a VR headset that they were showing off. Up until that point, I was just there in my master's program to kind of like get a better hang on the technical aspects of music production. I felt strong as a composer, but my mixes sucked. Maybe some of you can relate. Ben is a Chad. That's a great comment. I gotta capture that one. So someone at a conference had a VR headset, and I seeing it for the first time. I said, "Oh yeah, let me try that. Like, what is this? This looks cool." And I think the game was the old like Pirate Space Invaders or whatever the title of that one of those really early VR games was, and it just totally blew my mind out of my skull. I had no idea that this technology existed and had come so far already that it was that. I mean, that, now looking back was probably a terrible VR experience that made half the people who did it sick. But for me, just was like, big eye opener. And I started to learn about VR and spatial audio and 3D and all this stuff. And I realized that would be a great topic for a master's thesis because it was still so new, and so many people were still kind of fleshing it out. So I ended up writing my thesis on sound design for virtual environments and did a big project for my master's program. And so when I was done with that, I kind of, along the way realized, oh, Unity, oh, like Fmod, oh, these are all the tools that people use to make games that aren't VR as well. And now I kind of understand how to use them. So why don't I start working in games a little bit? So I started a small game audio studio with a friend of mine from the program. It went about as well as expected for two foreigners with relatively small networks and no established work in the gaming field. We did do some cool work on some point and click adventure games, some VR projects as well, but we're still doing probably like 50% other work, recording artists, running live sound, doing all kinds of gigs just to get things going. But in 2020, Corona came through and just wiped out so much of our business that it just wasn't feasible anymore. So we hung out on as long as we could, but inevitably we had to close down shop because we just couldn't survive on what we were making at the time. But that ended up being a blessing in disguise, because when I reached out to some contacts of mine and told them I was looking for work, they recommended me for the job I have now at my current company called D Modern. And maybe a little side note, this is, I think, a great example of how you never know who from your network might be that contact that's going to like make or break your career, because the people that recommended me to this job was just, from a studio that we had hired out for some super random work we did, recording voice samples for voice activated technologies to train on. We were just going in the studio and recording hundreds of people just speaking, normal phrases, a la, hi Alexa and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't for Alexa, I should say, under wraps, zip up my mouth, but it wasn't Alexa, but similar. You can let your mind wander there. And that's just we just ended up getting to know the studio owners. The quality control for that job was very high, so we had to rent out a very, very good studio. So the owners were really successful people. And just randomly, when I needed work and asked them, they said, "Oh yeah, actually, the CEO from this company who we're pals with just last week said they want to have audio internally at their company, which they never done before. And we know what you all do. We know you guys. We're cool. We feel comfortable connecting you." And literally a week after, this like rather heartbreaking situation of having to close our company that we tried so hard to make work, I suddenly had an excellent position, an excellent new job at this company, a company that actually did work that I used to eyeball previously as a freelancer and think, oh, I wish one day that I could work with in a company of this caliber. So you really, go out there, make connections, talk to people, make friends. You never know where that next big opportunity is going to come from. So to sum it up, my current roles, again, involve my position as audio lead. I call myself a lead because I don't know what else to call myself. I'm the only person who does audio, so I don't necessarily lead people, but I am in charge of everything that has to do with the audio pipeline and all of our projects. That does sometimes involve bringing in freelancers to do extra work and hiring out people. So that's just my chosen title. I'm the only person, at the company doing audio, so I get to just call myself whatever I want. Otherwise, I'm also blogging. Some of you might know my work at the GameAudioPro.com. There's some kind of coaching and career content for people who are working in the industry or want to work in the industry. It's really like business focus, freelance focus, how to go out there and actually turn all the passion into cha-ching, cash at the end of the day. And finally, I'm also the founder of the SFX Swap, which hopefully some of you have participated in. If you haven't heard of it, it's a monthly crowdsourcing event for sound designers. You can pitch in your sound effects during the submissions window, and at the end, everyone gets all the sounds that were collected. And we also get some sponsors on board and have a lot of great pros turning in and contributing really cool stuff for everyone who participates. So definitely check that out. All right, on with the show. So I wanted to talk a little about games and commerce, because as you can imagine, businesses love to make money, and they love any and all opportunities that can connect them with potential customers. And considering the gaming industry, last time I checked, dwarfs the film and music industries combined by a substantial margin, you can imagine that they aren't only people who make games are interested in the potential of games and interactive technologies. So I just wanted to take you through a little history of gaming and business, name a couple examples of how businesses have recognized the potential of games and these interactive technologies to engage with their customers, and how they've actively embraced them as marketing tools or as customer checkpoints and the like. So one of my favorite super old school examples is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola collaborated with Atari in the 1980s to create a game called Pepsi Invaders. You can imagine which game that was based off of. And the game featured these excellent little Coca-Cola logos and was used as a promotional tool, essentially. And Pepsi, of course, fired back and ran other various campaigns. I think they had one called Pepsi Man in the 1990s or so. So as soon as games existed, companies were looking to see how they could get in on the action, right? Outside of video games, of course, probably a lot of us know and remember from our youth, or I assume they still do it, the McDonald's and Monopoly promotions where you have to buy McDonald's stuff and you get the little peel things and you can play Monopoly with them and win prizes. So more of a board game related thing, but still, I mean, that's like a thing that they've done for decades at this point. So big companies love games. And then, of course, some companies, when it makes sense, they just go out and make actual games from their products, such as Lego. I mean, Lego has really successfully capitalized on the popularity of video games. They've been creating video games based on their Lego blocks for also, I would imagine, decades now. Lego Marvel, Lego Star Wars, Lego Batman, Lego literally whatever the hell you can imagine, they've done it. And, they're just offering more to their Lego fans and allowing players to interact with their favorite characters and storylines while, of course, promoting Lego's physical products at the same time. I've got to say, too, the Lego movies crushed it. Holy crap, they were so good. Hilarious. I loved it. Yeah. So you can see, this is nothing new, but I think now there are a lot of companies are starting to realize just like how much they can do, that it's not just a gimmick anymore, or not just like, just partnering with a game that exists and maybe, I don't know, like getting a commercial out of it, or getting, a Ronald McDonald featured in Fortnite or whatever the hell kind of thing you can imagine it. So a lot of companies are now looking at how the technology that creates, things like Lego Batman can actually be used very directly in like B2B or B2C experiences that are very high value, high class, and aren't just kind of gimmicky video game spin-offs that they think will make them a quick buck. So that's what I want to show you a little today, is just some examples that represent just a fraction of the businesses that have recognized the value of gaming and interactive experiences in engaging with customers. So let's see. I'm going to show you a few projects that my company has worked on. Disclaimer, I haven't worked on every single one of these projects. I picked a couple that were also very cool from before my time at the company. But I did do most of them, so I can answer direct questions about them as well. And I'm not sharing audio, FYI, but I am going to show you just some videos while I talk, because I think that will hopefully be a little cooler. Let's see. Right now. So location-based entertainment is crushing it right now. Everybody wants to have some cool pop-up interactive thing at their festival, at their business, at their event, at their, you name it. If they can have something awesome to showcase, or even have as a permanent installation, then they want it. And this is one such example. This is a project that we did for Royal Caribbean, the cruise line. And it's basically an interactive installation that plays a big role in the youth and family program, and kind of introduces a little bit of the latest and greatest technologies on board their existing and upcoming cruise ships. So these interactive animated stories, in which children kind of participate through physical activities and interactions using our custom-built and designed controllers, is essentially what we came up with when Royal approached us and asked us to help them design something for the kids on their ship to entertain them. Basically, in each chapter of these interactive stories, they get to engage in some kind of small quests or activities where they work together with the characters, using these controllers, which are actually custom fitted from the HTC Vive setup. We used the pucks, they're called, attached them to some 3D printed models that we created ourselves, and then essentially turned them into those kind of flashlight type things that you probably just saw in the video, that allow them to kind of like point and do very simple things to interact with the characters, solve puzzles, and kind of help move the story along. So mostly linear, but with interactive elements that get the kids excited and involved, so they're not just watching TV, right? So this project is, it's Unity, HTC Vive, VR setup. Even though it wasn't a VR project, we were using that technology to enable, a 2D but interactive linear story to take place. And this is something we've rolled out 4 stories so far that are already on cruise ships for kids to enjoy, and there are more coming in the pipeline. This is a lot of fun. They're very simple, but they're adorable, and it's just a little better than just sitting them in front of a television screen. So the next project involves awareness and activism. Then the customer was actually PETA. I forgot what PETA stands for. Something for the ethical treatment, people for the ethical treatment of animals. Some P for the ethical treatment of animals. Somebody in the chat probably knows. So this was another one where we use VR, although now people are actually going in VR to experience it. So we're using interactive technologies such as motion capture, live acting, and developing an emotional, and I can tell you very emotional, a virtual reality experience for PETA that allows users to engage in real-time dialogue with a virtual animal and kind of observe the world through its perspective, allow them to take such delightful and memory-forming trips to slaughterhouses and other places where animals can be mistreated, and kind of raise awareness for, of course, all the things that PETA works to improve in the world. So this was actually, I think, an Unreal Engine project. This is the only one from the list that I didn't work on. This was before my time. But as you can see, Oculus Rift, Unreal, and the component that I think is just so cool is the live acting, actually, capturing, doing motion capture in real time, and having an actor be that bunny rabbit that you see, that main character, and really, speak with people and react to them, and have it not just be kind of an experience that they consume, but that they're actually involved with one-on-one. I think this is a fantastic and super cool way to use the technology. As you can see, very emotional impact. There were actually like psychologists on board to make sure it wasn't too like terrorizing and traumatic, because obviously the themes and the topic, it can be a bit bit harsh for some people. So it wasn't Andy Serkis, but it was nonetheless a very unforgettable and interesting immersive experience that was all made possible by game development technologies. The rabbit was driven by an actor. This project is like 4 years old, maybe, so AI was not nearly strong enough to make that happen. But thank you for the question. And if I miss any of your questions, I'm kind of only just glancing at the chat occasionally, so just come back with them at the end and I'll be happy to answer them. The next project is another location-based entertainment project. This is for kind of customer engagement, customer retention, and it's from the hip-hop fashion retailer Snipes. Some of you, if you're into hip-hop or into the world of breakdancing or just kind of that culture in general, you might know Snipes. They're a fashion retailer in the US and in Europe, and we constructed essentially a sound booth with an automated recording process for their stores that offers a fun and barrier-free experience for dedicated rappers and fun-loving fans alike to kind of step into a booth and record themselves in a quick, easy, but also like fun and kind of shareable, social media-able way. So we didn't set out to replace the real studio experience, but rather to create kind of an easy, accessible, and fun recording tool that's free to use at the local Snipe store. So this was an interesting project technically. It definitely required a solid understanding of Unity and its audio pipeline, and kind of how to interface it with a recording setup to get it up and running, because there is, there are a lot of workarounds in this project. Unity um, cannot record and give back audio in real time, not even close, like several seconds of delay. So we had to figure out a way for people to be able to, of course, hear themselves, hear the music, not have crazy lag, not have issues, but also get a decent, find a way to build a audio pipeline in Unity that gets the best result possible out of this, nonetheless kind of quick win type of project where, you're only going in and recording for like 45, 60 seconds max. So that was definitely an interesting one. It's a project that was actually underway in their store, and evidently they were not satisfied with the previous people who had started on it, so they came to us and asked us to essentially improve it. And I can say that the state of the audio quality was not good, so I'm very happy to have been able to come in and make sure that people who wanted to record themselves and their dope rhymes, as this white man will call it, had a good time. This is, let's see, next. All right. Next are online events and interactive showrooms. This is just one of many of these type of projects that we're actually doing right now. This one, the client was Xiaomi. They wanted to offer their customers a space to kind of come together online in a kind of gamified, fun, low-key way and experience their new products, and create just kind of a nice vibe for the launch of their new, I think it was the Redmi something phones that came out recently. So there are a lot of I know the word metaverse is being thrown around quite a lot lately. I will say that it's a bit cringy how many people kind of like with AI, so like a lot of stuff you're looking at it like, this, okay, you're saying metaverse, you're saying AI, you're saying this, that, the other thing, but it's not really that. You just want to capitalize on the hype, but whatever. I think these types of this type of project, I'll just rerun the video so you can keep looking at it, is pretty easy to set up these days. It's only going to get easier. You can come in, you can have a little avatar, you can, maybe it's something small and simple. Other clients, like PwC, if anyone knows, multinational pharmaceutical company, enormous, billions and billions and billions in market cap. We created a similar platform for them, although it's closed, like company only for their tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of employees worldwide to use. So this can be scaled from very small little on the weekend activations to enormous company-wide structures with super high security and all kinds of other stuff. But yeah, brands are loving these kind of, for now, I think a lot of brands are using these as quick wins, like I said, but they're, easy, they're online, it's easy for people to just hop in. It's not an app. They just hop in via the browser, choose a little avatar, and then they can kind of run around and just see what's up, see what's going on. So the requirements for audio are still relatively minimal. This is all built on the web. And I can tell you now that I've had a lot more experience in web audio than I ever thought I would, that web audio is very, very basic. So I think, like, for this one experience with Xiaomi, I think I didn't really do much except just like perhaps some music to loop in the background, and I think one or two like basic sound effects. But others, we do have built-in tools nowadays that allow us to place audio objects in the scene. So we've got spatial audio going on. You can do a lot more if you want to, if the client is interested. So I have done other projects like this where it was they wanted like a nature theme, and I'm like hiding little like birds in the trees and stuff like that, or animals in the bushes that you only hear if you walk right up next to the bush. And all of these are things that I would not have known how to do, or probably not even have thought of if I hadn't come from a game audio background. And finally, I think my last one here is product interactions. I think this one is definitely a field that is only just getting started with the advent of like mobile AR and the improvement of all of the just the capabilities of smartphones in general. So this is a project we did for Pringles, which has actually been a pretty actively involved company in terms of like digital pop culture, gaming, esports. And so for the World Cup in 2022, we teamed up with them to transform Pringles packaging into a mini gaming console with the help of augmented reality technology. So as you can see, you can scan, or you could scan the can with your phone and activate a mini game that uses the can as a goalpost, and you flick the ball at the can to hit all of the targets and unlock a character, depending on what flavor of Pringles you bought that day. And I think we even had giveaways where we 3D printed those characters for a small number of people as like a prize. So mobile AR, just super easy. Whip out your phone, you've got a product. Someone built a fun little mini game or interaction of some kind. If someone's wearing headphones, this can totally be a spatial audio experience. This one was not, just because it didn't really bring a whole lot extra to the experience, but no doubt you can do a lot more. This was also a web-based project, web AR, built with the eighth wall framework, it's called. But that also means this game is playable directly from the browser. No need to install apps. Again, like quick wins, get the customers engaged right away kind of thing. Because if they're not playing like a dedicated game that they went out and really wanted to like buy or invest time in, and of course they don't want to download apps or go through jump through hoops to have these kind of mini experiences. So this was product interactions, location-based entertainment, online installations and showcases and showrooms, all kinds of stuff. These are all, again, these are like all projects. They're Unity, they're Unreal, they're half of the people in our team come from a game dev background, if not more than half. So these are all I think excellent examples of how companies are kind of getting in on the action and realizing that they can also use these kinds of tools to make cool and fun and valuable experiences for their customers and for their partners. So, oops, wrong button. So how can you perhaps get in on this? Like I said, this is probably not the hundreds of billions market cap of the gaming industry yet, but it's definitely growing. Definitely like more and more companies want to do this type of stuff. And because the technology is getting cheaper, the amount of talented people like yourselves who can create these types of experiences is only expanding. So it's definitely going to grow, in my opinion. The opportunities in this field, as they're growing, it's going to influence and affect gaming technology, both ways, I think. And as more businesses become more interested, I think a lot of game audio folks can leverage this and connect with maybe new customers, new partners, and new opportunities to use their talents for stuff like this. So I would suggest, if any of this has interested you, that you keep your eyes out and open, not only for game developers and game development companies, but also agencies, digital agencies, advertising agencies, Some of them are already doing this work in-house. Some of them are outsourcing it. We work with some agencies, so big agencies with big brands on their docket who want to offer this to them, but also know they don't have the talent for that, or they don't have that setup to do internally yet. So they come to us or they outsource to other people. So if there are maybe agencies, digital service providers in your area, you can go and see where they might be hanging out, what kind of events they might attend, what kind of award shows maybe are highlighting the kind of projects that are happening in this area. Otherwise, software developers, same thing. They might be working on the type of showroom platforms, that brands want to use to have online events. They might be working on, I know, simulation and like trainings in VR and elsewhere are very, very popular right now. Someone just tried to scout me on LinkedIn for a company that makes purely like virtual reality training simulators for like big pharma and for the medical industry to help people train on some of those enormous machines that make medicines and other things, without stopping the entire production flow for the day that they need to go in and train. So the other opportunity might be, of course, actual game dev studios, because I know that some of them also pick up this kind of work when agencies or software developers or otherwise, clients think, hey, we want to do something like this as well, but we don't have the skills or the talent in-house. So who do we talk to about making a game? Well, maybe game developers. So this happens as well. So don't shun the game developers. You never know. They might be in on it as well, or maybe they don't advertise it as much because it's just like a quick win, good money on the back of their indie game or whatever they're working on otherwise. So yeah, just go to events, meet some people, show up, help them understand how your skill set can benefit their projects. Because if you thought that game developers maybe don't understand or appreciate the value that audio brings to their projects, that these agencies really don't understand anything about it yet, and they love to have people in their pockets who are experts, who know what they're talking about, because again, everyone's out here trying to make money in the best ways they can. And if a client comes by and says, for example, like the Snipes project, like, hey, we want to build an interactive recording studio, those agencies need to reach out to somebody to help make it happen. So they need your expertise, they need your help. And hopefully, if you're kind of willing to expand your horizons a little bit, maybe look around and see where these kinds of projects are happening in your city or in your country, who's doing them, where they, what kind of events they go to, where they congregate, maybe what kind of meetups they attend. Maybe break out of your comfort zone a little bit and go check it out for yourself. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. If you want to check out any of the stuff I've talked about, either my company, there are a lot more projects as examples on our website, dmodern.com. You can go check all of those out. If you're interested in the blog or the sound effects crowdsourcing project I mentioned earlier, those are the links here as well. And so I'm happy if anyone has any questions about this, that, anything at all, to answer them if you post them in the chat. Thank you, Slava. Nice to see you. Slava Pogorelsky, I hope I'm pronouncing your name somewhat correctly, was an excellent pro contributor to June's SFX swap, and I have to go and select the 3 people who are getting his lovely libraries as rewards. Thanks for dropping by, Slava. Have you ever worked on car sound design? Electric cars, different engine sounds. Yes. So funnily enough, I've been working with BMW, with Mini, also through my company, but actually on like an online quote unquote metaverse platform where people can drive a gamified like mini car as their avatar. So I've gotten into that topic a little bit, but I have not personally worked on a car directly. That's a little outside of my wheelhouse, although I imagine, understanding a bit about real-time audio and and how that all works is the basis for how those cars are producing sound as well. What programming languages are used for web AR? That's a really good question. That's not one that I worked on the code in any way. And I really actually can't remember what the A12 framework is built off of. It might be React. I know a lot of our web projects are built off of React. But what else it might have been, I'm afraid I can't say. What you do is basically audio programming, right? No, I would say I am definitely not an audio programmer. I know just enough to hack it in Unity and C Sharp, and I understand the Unreal blueprints, but I am not a programmer. And I would say the value for most of us who aren't programmers lies in actually just knowing how to speak to programmers. So I can say that my feedback from a lot of programmers I've worked with and the developers I've worked with is they're just happy if you speak their language, because sometimes they're just, they hear the words coming out of your mouth, but they can't translate it into code. And if you can say, oh, this is an event that needs to, be triggered on collision, or if you can say, hey, like, we need to build this so that it, does XYZ other thing, being able to communicate effectively is the name of the game. So I don't usually have to touch the code, which is good for everyone involved because that's not my wheelhouse. But being able to understand at least the fundamental concepts of how code works and how things work in the game engines or in some of these web projects is it goes a long way. And I've only gotten positive feedback for having that little bit of knowledge and skill to talk with the devs in that way. So what else we got here? Are you juggling multiple projects, or is it usually one after another? It is usually multiple projects, Mr. Greg Lester. I'm the only person who does audio at my company, so whether there's just one or whether there's multiple projects, that's just how the cookie crumbles. So I'm not in charge of that, and so far we haven't ever been so overloaded because not a lot of our projects. I can say, not a lot, but like a decent chunk of them really don't have any very serious audio demands. So there's a mixture of some that, we have like a 5-figure, 20, even 30K plus budget for the audio because there's so much happening, or there might be somewhere, like I mentioned before, I might only be like looking up some music in a library, editing it into a clean loop and pushing it to the customer. So we really run like the whole gamut. From audio really isn't important almost at all for this project, and they're getting like the bare minimum or even nothing if it's, maybe we do also do like e-commerce apps and things that don't need any sound, to fully fledged audio experiences. How important is it to learn programming? I think I answered that question, hopefully, with my little rant on there's just the communication aspect of it. I think it's I haven't often needed to be able to program myself, but the little bit of programming I did learn, again, helps me to communicate effectively. And I think that's important because developers are better at developing than I am. So, unless you want to go hard into technical audio and audio programming as a career path, I would say it's good to know some basics, but mostly just for teamwork and communications. Are there any free certification courses for Unreal blueprints? I'm sure there are. Maybe someone in the chat can answer that question because I actually don't know that offhand. Unreal is just something I probably learned with YouTube videos and tutorials. What do you think would be impressive to show in a reel that you might pass to advertisers or brands if you want to work the types of projects you're mentioning? Logo, audio redesign, something else? Thanks for the question, Adam. I suppose it depends a bit on your background as well and what you have been doing. So as with all things, if you can send potential clients a reel that speaks directly to what they do, that's always the best. So yeah, if you've worked on any interactive projects that aren't only games, that might be like a little clearer to people without the creativity to leap from one to the from one field to the next, that what you have to offer aligns with what they need, that kind of thing. But I can't think of any really specific thing. Audio logos are something that probably a lot of these companies are still getting from like a standard studio. So if we're talking about like actual like these interactive projects, I think just being able to show that you understand interactive, working with interactive stuff in general would be helpful. Hope that answers that somehow a little bit. Reels are a tricky topic. Just go as close to what you think the client is looking for as possible. Question from Aditya Gupta. Most of the sound design in the demo reel is for games. How should I approach an ad agency with that? Sorry, that's a similar question, I would say. Kind of like what I just mentioned. If that ad agency is doing interactive projects like the ones that I've been showing you here, then it shouldn't be a quantum leap for them to say, oh, this person works with games and we use game technology to make stuff for our clients. So they probably understand that. Of course, if they're working on projects for I don't know, for Ferrari, and you have done audio for a car racing game, that would probably work very well. So it's again kind of up to you to decide how your background fits with what they're working with. So from Sam, sorry if this is super relevant to you personally, but how do you demonstrate ROI for companies that want these experience, etc., and how accessible are they for smaller companies? ROI, if you're talking about return on investment, you're talking about hard numbers. So you would, I think, need to like pull up some studies that actually show and can prove that, because especially if you're moving away from creative ventures like video games and moving towards like agencies and brands that need to see and earn cold hard cash, then demonstrating ROI means something much different to them than someone who's just interested in the creative return on investment, so to speak. So, but I haven't actually had to do that because I'm not the sales team at my company. So I don't know how well I can answer that question. Aaron Richards, good to see you, Aaron. Hi, Ben, thanks for sharing. Is there a grand sweeping single answer you could give to what skill or mindset could people more adopt in the audio space? Oh, wow, you're really throwing me a tough one here. I think personally a mindset and slash skill that a lot of people, especially, I come from a freelancing background. This is the job I have now is the first job 40-hour a week like contract thing I've worked basically in my entire professional life. But a mindset I think that more people could adopt is of the business owner, and treating your career and your freelancing ventures, if you're a freelancer, with a bit more uh, uh, with a background, or with that concept that you are a business and there are certain things that businesses need to do to survive, to make money, approaching clients, making sales, topics that sound just like some bros on a podcast would talk about them for 2 hours and then try to sell you some vitamins or something. But it's true, you're I like to say, you in this industry, you live on the 2 R's: your reputation and your relationships. And so either you're just so unbelievably good that people recognize it right away and just start offering you jobs left, right, and center, or you spend probably a long time developing relationships with people so that they give you opportunities so that you can do good work, which then comes out as a good reputation for what you're doing, and you slowly climb the ladder of success, so to speak. But a lot of people, I think, they just wake up and think, if I just if I polish my reel a little more, somehow, somewhere, someone will see it and give me a job. But you can you could work on your reel every day, all day, for the rest of your life, and it could be the most impressive reel in the entire world. But if no one sees it, and you don't have any relationships with people who would want to see it, then you're kind of shit out of luck. Pardon my French. So let's see. How deep, from Fernando, how deep the clients want you to go into sound design with VR, AR experiences? Are they very demanding on little details? No, no. I would say it depends on the client, especially in the space that we're talking about today, in these kinds of agency brand experiences. Sometimes they have no idea what they want, and we have to do a lot of work like figuring it out. They just like see cool buzzword floating by in their LinkedIn feed and want to throw money at it and see if it makes sales. Sometimes we have really, really dedicated and attentive clients who really do come to me with lots of feedback. And like one of my first projects at this company, I had to do like 15 versions of a 90-second piece of music that just looped in the background of an otherwise like not that amazing experience. So I've had everything from that to clients who okayed all of my audio right away, didn't ask any questions, didn't even realize that there were some bugs that were still there that made it halfway broken that I had to fix later. So I think it really depends on who you end up working with, which frankly, in my opinion, is a little bit like my experience in games as well. Sometimes you have clients in the gaming world they know exactly what they want from the audio, and they are attentive to the little details. And sometimes they're just like, oh, cool, wow, a talented sound person is here and ready to do the stuff. And I don't know what they do, but it sounds good to me and I'm happy. So that's kind of what I would say to that. So, Mr. Adam, how is the experience working with ad agencies different from working with game devs? Deadline pressure and process, crazy crunch time. Agencies have a much more strict bureaucratic structure and pipeline than the sometimes chaotic world of game development. You would be wrong. We also experience chaos. Like I just mentioned, sometimes we have clients coming in and asking for things that they just don't understand. And occasionally, if communication isn't very clear and very well done from at the beginning of a project, halfway through you realize, oh, they thought they were buying X, but we're working on Y. And now we have to like butt heads a little bit and hope that they're okay with the outcome, because like if they wanted X, then the project budget should have been $1 million and not 500,000 or something like this. So no, I wouldn't say there's less chaos in this field. I would say there's potentially even more, because a lot of game developers, especially the more seasoned ones, will have a better understanding of the audio pipeline and how things work, and they have experience with it, over and over again, doing, making games, working with the audio team, making games, working with the audio team. But some of these agencies are kind of, they're trying things out. A lot of our projects, there's like from one day to the next, we're working on very different things that are completely different tech stacks, completely different skill set, completely different people involved. So it, mostly it goes smoothly because luckily the people in my team are really good at what they do, but occasionally that can go a little crazy. All right, Harvey, thanks for the talk. Am I understanding correctly that you advise joining a software company and suggesting they move into these non-game interactive projects, or are they agencies which will hook up with us, the customers, directly? Which agencies? Well, I don't know if I could say which agencies, because that depends very much on where you are in the world. I only know, the few in my corner of northern Germany, so I can't name any specifically. Probably that would be helpful for you. And no, I'm not advising that you join a software company, unless, of course, they're hiring for a position that sounds interesting to you. So this, like I tried to mention this is stuff that some companies are working on more dedicatedly, if that's a word. Uh, like I think I mentioned the simulation trainings. There are companies with uh, hundreds of employees whose only job is to make simulation trainings for sometimes for like the biggest industries in the world, like pharmaceutical, like military, and like defense stuff like this. So that is a niche that exists. I know someone who's worked, or I know people who have worked in these fields using like Unreal to do simulations for like running a submarine, for example. Crazy stuff like this. Um, so I'm not advising that you do anything specifically, because I don't know you and your background, but I'm just kind of trying to lay out some of the possibilities. So those are some types of companies that you might consider checking out, reaching out to, trying to get in contact with. If any of this sounds interesting to you, if you're looking to maybe expand your horizons a little bit. I know for myself, like this is a great position for me because I enjoy the interactivity of games and the challenge that comes along with making audio for that. But I was never really like a gamer type of person. So sometimes making games just felt like a little untrue to me, whereas I do love actually like the business niche, and that's why I have a blog on the topics of designing a website, or how to like reach out to clients, how to do negotiations. I like these types of topics, so this kind of B2B and game tech world that I've landed in works really well for me, and maybe there are other people out there like myself who that would be interesting for. Cool. Well, I think I've answered all your questions, unless someone else has anything. Otherwise, yeah, I hope this was interesting, eye-opening, maybe piqued your curiosity a little bit, something to think about, something to mull over as you enjoy the rest of your day and into the weekend. If there's anything left unsaid, or if you're looking for any further information, advice, or just want to chat about other stuff, my virtual doors are always open. You can find me on Twitter. You can reach out through my blog at thegameaudiopro.com. I'm definitely open to chatting with all of you about anything you want. I saw one last question. Are most non-web AR projects Unity? That's a great question. I don't know the statistics on that at all. I haven't worked on enough of those projects myself. So I'm not an expert on that yet. But yeah, thanks a lot. Make sure to check out the SFX swap if you're a sound designer and want to get a bunch of free sounds just for submitting and sharing your own sounds that you make at home and for your own library. Share, and profit from the positivity and the awesomeness of the sound community online. And I wish you all a fantastic rest of your Thursday. Enjoy the rest of AirCon. Big thanks to Greg and Lewis for organizing all of this. How they pull this off among the already like dozen other things they do, I don't know. If maybe it's like a super shake, or I don't know, do you eat 12 avocados a day? Please tell us your secrets so that we can emulate you. And with that, I'm signing off. Thank you very much for coming, and I hope to talk to you or see you all again.